Warning, this video contains spoilers regarding the film.
Hi,
I'm Chris.
I'm Will, and this is Hack No Jam. This week, we'll be analyzing David Fincher's Fight Club.
God damn it, an entire generation pumping gas, waiting tables, slaves with white collars. Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need.
Before we talk about the analysis, it's important to know what the movie is about in order to understand the content of this video. So let's first talk about the theme of the movie.
Fincher insists that Fight Club is a modern society satire black comedy. It depicts the collision and confrontation of the current generation against the deeply rooted consumerism by showing the conflict a nameless narrator, Edward Norton, faces against the consuming culture and male masculinity crisis in America.
We all thought you were dead. No, still here.
It is definitely one of the movies with a very strong voice, and Fincher supports his voice with a lot of strong elements that are bold, raw, and aggressive. Let's look at how Fincher supports his voice by embedding visual elements that constantly appear throughout the film.
Because of the world they live in, men are steadily losing what they once were. Man. But instead of attacking and solving the issues like what men would do, they let it slide by comforting each other who also have the same problem in a more feminine way. Because we are adapted to cope our problems this way.
We're a generation of men raised by women. I'm wondering if another woman is really the answer we need.
And Fincher doesn't like that. He doesn't like how companies are advertising us to pursue meaningless values without finding who we are and be the same as all the others. Becoming a duplicate of another duplicate, he wants us to man up, regain our masculinity that we lost, and attack the system and beat ourselves to death to resurrect to become better selves.
To show how the system has influenced us, Fincher gave us Edward Norton, Brad Pitt, and Helena Bonham Carter.
Doesn't have your name. Who are you?
Edward Norton represents the average man in the society. He is passive, lives by rules with no questions, is sick of his boring life, and can only get rested in Bob's men boobs.
This is your life, and it's ending 1 minute at a time.
But his life slowly changes when he meets Brad Pitt.
Could you wake up as a different person?
Brad Pitt is the masculinity itself. He's active, reckless, and bold. He's everything that Norton is not, and whom he wants to be.
All the ways you wish you could be, that's me.
And while living with each other, these two very different men slowly change to something unexpected, providing great character arcs for these characters.
Of a copy.
Edward Norton, who was just an average Joe, slowly regains his masculine self to become a man with identity from interacting with his alter ego Brad Pitt. And the process of becoming a man is shown through Norton commenting how Jack is feeling, which also implies how he feels inside.
I am Jack's complete lack of surprise.
What? I don't want to die without any scars.
Brad Pitt, on the other hand, as he plans his Project Mayhem and builds an army, he slowly changes to something he hated so much. The prototype of a cool guy, person that people idolize, and someone who cares about his looks, just like the models in the advertisements that produce duplicates. He becomes the franchisee of
Planet Tyler. Ruined everything.
This is cancer, right?
Helena Bonham Carter is a tricky one. She's like the tumor of Edward Norton's mouth, the one who gets in the way of everything. But as they say, opposites attract each other. As Norton is attracted to Pitt, Carter, whose characteristics are very similar to Pitt, also becomes the object of Norton's affection. She's the least changing character among them, but unlike other characters, we slowly learn about the warm side of her character, which allows us to become attached to her and root for her.
Fight Club, fuck Marla, I am sick of all your shit.
Fight Club is a very different movie. The characters constantly break the fourth wall and look straight at the audience, and they even know when flashbacks happen. So when Edward Norton comes back to the first scene of the movie in the last one, his dialogue changes from
I can't think of anything.
to
I still can't think of anything. Flashback humor.
good filmmakers tell stories visually in a very effective way. As always, Fincher again does what he's good at, revealing information through visuals. Let's go to a scene where Norton arrives at his condo and finds out his unit has been blown up. Although there is a narration, none is really needed to show that it was his condo that was blown up. All he has to do is show a burnt object that is very unique to Edward Norton. In this case, bam, the yin-yang table.
Here's also a very clever way to show Edward Norton's mind visually. While he's phoning Helena Bonham Carter, it crosses over with how his condo was blown up. As it slowly shows what went on in his unit, Norton's waiting for the phone to be picked up. And when Carter answers the phone, boom, the unit explodes. We believe this was done to show how his feelings for Carter suddenly reached a peak when he hears her voice. And he does it by literally showing an explosion in his unit, or his mind.
How does Fincher tell the story in this narration visually?
At night, Tyler and I were alone for a half a mile in every direction.
The nature of the sport pretty much explains that nothing is around them from miles apart.
In here, Carter is lighting her cigarette during a support group meeting, but it is shot with a high-speed camera. This gives more weight in Carter's action and reminds us that every little movement of hers is bugging the hell out of Edward Norton.
I couldn't sleep.
What better way can you show the two people just had a sleepless night having sex? Easy. Show a bunch of used condoms floating in a dirty toilet.
This scene is where Brad Pitt is talking to Edward Norton while he is half asleep after a car collision. Instead of showing the sequence in normal cuts, Fincher decided to use fade in and outs to show his fuzzy state of mind.
In Fight Club, the existence of exit signs heavily associate with the theme. During the movie, in many places where a system is established, exit signs are visible, but no one accesses through them.
But this gradually changes as we meet Brad Pitt, who from the beginning sits next to an emergency exit, being aware of its responsibility, and eventually walks past the stewardess and leaves through an exit sign, escaping from a system for the first time in the movie. After organizing Fight Club, whenever he plans or executes something, he leaves through an exit sign.
In the film, Brad Pitt puts a slice of frame of a man penis into a movie while working as a projectionist at a theater. This grey humor doesn't just end as a humor in the film. Himself is shown as in a frame length 4 times in different scenes. This could mean that as Norton struggles with his current self, Pitt in his mind is consciously getting more clear.
It could also be used to accentuate the masculinity that the film promotes, and it could also be indicating other themes of the movie. All the themes discussed in the film didn't just come out of nowhere. They have always been there. You just need to look to see and find them.
Let's get into directing actors. As we watch the film, we found some pretty convincing actings that might have been suggested by the director to make them more natural or more believable.
But I am in a pretty lonely...
This, which is one of the funniest scenes in the movie, is where Chloe desperately reveals her sexual desire in front of an audience. By slowly getting closer to the microphone and creating a noise, makes her seem more desperate and is more funny than just saying it normally.
lubricants and amyl nitrate.
Chloe.
In this scene, where Norton approaches Carter to tell her off, you can see a guy in the background who slowly walks towards Carter, but then backs away as Norton grabs her. Him shying away does not suit with Brad Pitt's philosophy. It reflects the quality that people in this support group possess, an outlook of typical man in our society that Pitt strongly criticizes.
Brad Pitt can't take a piss because Edward Norton is nearby. So what does he do? He grabs a glass of water next to him and slowly spills it on the floor to make the sound of urination.
Instead of walking on a sidewalk like a normal person, Pitt walks next to the sidewalk, splashing water like a little brat.
This scene looked more genuine and natural when Brad Pitt moves his leg over his other leg with his arms, as if his leg was hurt while getting beat up by Lou.
At the end of the film, when Norton tries to stop Project Mayhem, he shoots the entrance door of the building, but instead of going over the handlebar, he goes under it. It was a nice gesture to show that by this time, he still isn't fully as aggressive or daring as he should be.
No, I want bowel cancer.
With so many different themes intertwined in the film, this could have been easily a very serious and boring movie. However, what resurrected this film as a funny dark comedy is its honest humor.
Oh, don't worry. It's not a threat to you.
Oh God, no, please, no,
For some reason, I thought of my first fight with Tyler.
no!
There are many moments in the film that show some hints using clever dialogues and frames to indicate that Brad Pitt is just a projected imagery in Edward Norton's mind.
We have the exact same briefcase.
However, it doesn't come clear until the revelation near the end due to Fincher's clever way of hiding it.
Is Tyler my bad dream or am I Tyler's? Testicular cancer.
Fincher doesn't like to waste his screen. He likes to utilize every corner of the screen with either lightings, extras in all background, middle ground, and foreground, or by having the actors move around the scene. He does this to leave no space of dullness and add as much depth to the screen as possible.
I wish I could help you.
People are always asking me.
Many of the camera works were solely used to show the aggressiveness and rawness in the film. Fincher used a lot of tracking shots in the action scenes. He did it to give the strongest feeling of movement to the action by sliding the camera towards the same direction as the movement of the actors.
The sex scene, which was shot with the bullet time effect, which was known for being used in The Matrix, gives a completely different look than The Matrix. It looks as if the bodies of the actors have become one, and it also looks more intense and dramatic. It also gives a very illusionary effect to think it could be someone's dream.
There are often scenes where instead of using cuts, Fincher used fast panning to show two different sides in the same space. It emphasizes the relationship between the two objects, and at the same time, by using the delay of time caused by the camera movement, it increases our expectation and shows something unexpected.
With everyone's tongue, Tyler and I just gave it a name.
Many important locations where any major incident happens in the movie, such as Edward Norton's house, Lou's bar, and Pitt's house. Fincher used long takes. This was an excellent choice in showing the ambience of the place and the interaction between people and the main actors all at the same time.
And suddenly, I felt nothing.
For scenes where Edward Norton experiences a sudden change in his daily life or becomes aware of something, Fincher used high-speed cameras to have the slow motion effect, which was a clear way of emphasizing the crucial effect it had on Edward Norton's character.
He also used the difference in the camera angles of the two characters to show their relationships.
This is what we want.
No, I don't want this.
Right.
In here, while Norton's camera angle is at his eye level, Brad Pitt's is from a lot lower, visually showing a strong and powerful presence compared to Edward Norton.
You need me.
The front row seats for this
Fight Club
theater.
features some great sound designs that are unique and intriguing. Along with this distinctive soundtrack, there are a lot of interesting sound effects that provide more depth into what the character is going through in certain scenes, such as the radio frequency sound when Aaron Norton is experiencing flashbacks,
Let me start earlier.
the bold clock sound to show the character's insomnia,
I couldn't sleep. I let go.
and Gregorian chant to articulate the peacefulness of the character.
Dark and silent and complete.
We also cannot go without mentioning the locomotive sound. which can be heard whenever someone is venting his masculinity in a fight, which adds the enlightenment and excitement the character is feeling at the moment.
One element that especially stands out in the film is its catch dialogues.
If I did have a tumor, I'd name it Marla. Marla. The little scratch on the roof of your mouth that would heal if only you could stop tonguing it, but you can't. Babies don't sleep this well.
Blank faces, calm as Hindu cows.
Things you own end up owning you.
You want to make an omelet, you got to break some eggs.
Testicular cancer should be no contest, I think.
Well, technically, I have more of a right to be there than you. You still have your balls.
You're kidding.
I don't know. Am I?
Marla, look at me. I'm really okay. Trust me.
Everything's gonna be fine.
This is all we have for Fight Club. If you have any different ideas than us, or would like us to look into something other than we got our hands on, please leave comments below. Otherwise, see you next week.
You met me at a very strange time in my life.
With your feet on the air.